Hello, ladies. Welcome to the First Colony Church of Christ Women's page on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're watching it. My name is Missy Edgman. I'm the women's minister at First Colony Church of Christ. And I'm really excited about today's video. So I want you to go into this school year feeling encouraged. I want you to feel at peace. I want you to feel hopeful. Now, before we get into the video, though, I want to give you an assignment. Make a comment today with your best piece of encouragement.
Hi, I just want to take a few minutes to talk to you guys about your little ones and just their social emotional development and some different things you can do to help foster those along. So I think it's always important. We know that kids can be just a bundle of emotion, and we see it a lot of times just in their reactions, in their behaviors, but really there's a thought process that happens before that. And I think being mindful of why they're acting that way can be really helpful in our frustration and theirs. Equipping them at a really young age to know how to be their best selves, learn how to self-regulate, that's huge. And so we can start by just building their emotional intelligence by giving them words, expressing different emotions, showing them what that looks like. Sometimes in behavior, sometimes in just giving it a framework. If you have a little one who's laying on the ground, hitting and screaming, say to them, "Oh, I see you're frustrated," right? Because sometimes they don't know what that is yet, and so they have to figure that out. Once they can name it, then they can kind of claim it, right? And so then that's when you start working with them on, okay, what can you do about that? Yes, that is frustrating. So what can we do from here? And so I think that's really empowering for kids all the way up, but it starts at a young age and then they can just grow on it some more. Even really before kids have words, giving them some tools you can do. We used to do with my little ones, we used to do this, which meant help. And so letting them know that it's okay to ask for help instead of throwing a fit, that empowers them. It gives them, that's their how they've solved their problem. They're frustrated by something, they need some help, they can ask for it. But here's what happens. So a lot of times if we can get them to share their thought process behind how they're behaving, that really gives us an insight into what we need to walk them through. A lot of times we want our kids to be able to figure out, to interpret other people's feelings, right? And so a fun way to do that is through books. Talk about the characters. All of that goes into different levels of development, but it's all rich with that emotional and social intelligence. To model for them what happens when things don't go as planned, or when we get frustrated, or when we feel overwhelmed. It's okay for them to see you feel that way. Just make sure your response to it is something you want them to model. I think it's important that they learn that we don't always know all the answers, but we will figure it out. And so I think one of my favorite words is yet. We don't know what that's going to look like yet, but we'll figure it out. That builds their confidence that you are a problem solver and you can figure this out. You may just need to work at it a little bit. If they're confident, they are going to be better problem solvers. And so that's the experience that you want to give them. But you also need to model for them. I think it's really important that we also let them know that mistakes are part of it, and mistakes are learning also. And taking some reflection time on, oh, that did not work. And I think something we can, as moms, we can model. I thought this was a great idea, but when it went into execution, it was a disaster. And I think that's okay to tell our kids, you know what? That did not go as I planned. What do you think I could have done differently? And model just kind of that dialogue. Years ago, someone shared with us the idea of asking every day what's your best and worst part of your day is at the dinner table or at some point in time, prayer time, whenever. And that's been really invaluable for us as our kids have gotten older to find out things in their life that are really big to them, big disappointments or big excitements. And so let them share that with you. It gives you a real good glimpse into their lives. And then also it builds up that vocabulary. And so that's a fun game to do with the little ones. Fun to do with across the board ages, and just kind of get the conversation going of What are some things that make you feel that way? How do you handle that? What do you do when you're frustrated? And get some of that problem solving going. Okay? Have fun with your little ones, and don't ever take for granted that you are not in parenting alone. God will help you. All right? Take care.
Okay, as for me, I am a trained librarian, so I'm going to share books with you. My thinking is you can make Bible part of the curriculum this year as long as they're home anyway. Why not make Bible part of the curriculum? And this is my all-time absolute favorite. I used this one for my particular one was so torn up and broken I couldn't hold it up without it falling out. So I have a blank one here because I give these as gifts still all the time. Day by Day Kids Bible by Karen Henley. It has the clock on it because it's designed to be, it's written on a level that an average second grade reader can read the entry in about 7 minutes. So when my boys were very young, I used to read it to them, and when they got older, they read it. It has a really neat timeline in the middle. Now, there are no illustrations, but it is written at a very accessible level, and it's the whole Bible. They don't shy away from adult topics, but they do have them in very simple child words. So I learned a lot when I was reading through this with them. I was doing, some in-depth precept type studies, and then I would read the kids version that maybe would blend the psalm in with the story of the point in David's life where the psalm was written, or maybe the prophecy at the point in history that it was written. And it really helped things make a lot of sense to me. So highly recommend this one. Another one, I borrowed this one from the Cornerstone Christian Academy Library, the Jesus Storybook Bible. Now this one is beautifully illustrated, and every story it has a lovely way of talking about God in it that helps you think of God as being so very caring and loving and purposeful with us. They pull that out. It has all the way from the Old Testament to the New. And in every story, it has a way of talking about God that makes you feel his love for you. It's really a pretty neat book. And then not this particular one necessarily, but think about if your children love graphic novels like so many do these days, a comic book style Bible might be a good one to get. I got this because one of my boys loves comics, and I found it on his nightstand later, so it worked. Don't be hard on yourself. We are ultimately sinners, rearing sinners. So we're going to make mistakes. They're going to be badly behaved. When we make mistakes, go to God, confess, get his, forgiveness and encouragement and wisdom, and then go back and tell your children what you did. And that is going to be the most important thing you teach your children their whole life long. Forget, math, English, history, whatever. That's important too. But the most important thing that you're going to give them is if they can see you living out your faith. That will be the most important thing that you can give to your children.
Hi, I'm Danelle Taylor, and I have been homeschooling my kiddos for the past 13 years. Before that, I was a public educator, and I have been submerged in the education world for a very long time. My 4 kiddos have very different strengths, abilities, and personalities. So that sometimes makes things exciting, and it sometimes makes things challenging. But what I have found through all of these challenges is that God is faithful. The number one recommendation that I have for you as you begin this homeschool journey is to pray. In Philippians 4, we are told, "Do not be anxious, but present your requests to God." Pray for your kids, pray for your day, pray for your spouse, your neighbors. Prayer can truly make a difference, and I believe that with all of my heart. The second thing that I would say to you is have a plan. Whether you are homeschooling for the very first time, or if you are doing video education at home, or distance learning, have a plan and have a schedule, because schedule helps develop routines. Routines can be so important for kids as they as they are doing their schoolwork. And so I would encourage you to find a schedule that works for your family. Two cautions I have with schedules is that if you are a planner, when you create your schedule, try not to over plan. It's so easy to do, and it is a start for disaster. So just remember to take things easy and start things slow. As you become accustomed to your new routine, then add a few things. Also remember that you are the boss of the schedule, not the other way around. Sometimes things happen. You get sick, your kids get sick, the Wi-Fi goes down. There are so many things that can happen that will affect your schedule. Don't let it affect your mood and your day. Look for the joy and know that it's okay to take a break. It's okay to take a walk. It's okay to snuggle and read a book. You can come back after a short break and get back on your schedule. The next thing that I would say to you is remember to choose joy. Stay positive. Offer yourself grace. Offer your kids grace. And remember that God's mercies are new every day.
Hey moms, I'm Abby, and I hope in these next few minutes I can offer you some encouragement as we're starting this new school year. So I have 4 kids ranging from 1st grade to 8th grade, and we are entering our 6th year of homeschooling. So over the years, I have found things that work for our family and things that don't work for our family. But I can tell you that I certainly am no expert in schooling, and I will never be. And in those times that I really think, hey, I'm getting the hang of this, I can do this, that's when God gently comes in and reminds me that I can do nothing apart from Him. So even if you feel overwhelmed or lost, none of this is new to God. So I encourage you, lean into Him, trust Him. Let go of any expectations of the way you think this should go. Put aside what you want and seek what God wants. Because then we have the freedom to follow His will for our family and not feel trapped by comparisons or someone else's standards. When we're weary or weak, we can tap in to God's power. I'm sure you've heard the verse, the joy of the Lord is our strength. As God's people, the joy we have is not from some external emotion that is based on our circumstances, but rather our receiving of His grace, love, and salvation through His righteousness that eternally unites us with Him. Our joy is connected to our hope. So, how does this apply to schooling or parenting in general? When we're weary, our strength comes from the Lord as a gift of His grace. In joy, we surrender our circumstances, our expectations, and our trials. Psalm 116:11 says, "You have made known to me the path of life. You will fill me with joy in your presence, with eternal pleasures at your right hand." For myself, it's important that I connect with God in the morning. I do this through Bible reading, prayer, and meditation, knowing that the memories we make today will far outlast the math lesson that we put aside. But at the end of the day, my greatest strength comes from focusing on the Lord and who He is, and that He loves me and wants me enough to not leave me where I am. It's in the hard times that we grow the most, when we are willing to surrender to God's will in our lives. Sweet moms, please know that you are not alone, and so many people are praying for you as you go forward from here.
So one of the topics that Missy asked me to talk on was your self-care. And by self-care, I don't mean, oh, I got a mud mask, or I went and got a mani-pedi, or I took a bubble bath this week. Your self-care is whatever it takes to fill you, because we hear the saying all the time, you can't pour out from an empty glass. And sometimes just a movie night with my kids is what fills my glass, or a game night with friends fills my glass. But I can't pour out and be the best mom that I can be to my kids if I am running on empty. So one of the things that a lot of people do not know is that I was divorced about a year ago. And so I continued to homeschool my kids after that. I did not want to change the way we did schooling. I wanted that consistency for them, and I loved what they learned and how well they learned while homeschooling. So I've had to start working full time, and that means our homeschool looks a little different. And what makes it different is my people. There are going to be people around you that maybe your kids are great friends with, or maybe you're great friends with, or a mom whose strength is different than yours. Maybe you do not love arts and crafts or history or science experiments that can be messy. Find a mom who does. And it's so great to find those moms who their strengths may not be yours, and you're able to help each other out. So if it wasn't for my community and my people helping me out by having my kids while I work during the day so they can still work on their homeschool stuff, I wouldn't be able to do this with my kids. And so that means that in the evenings, our evenings might look a little different. I might be grading math or going over a writing assignment or checking spelling words in the evenings. And we may have to do some things on the weekends to make sure that, one, I know what's going on, and two, they know what's going on. So it takes a different level of commitment when you have to work full time. And I know that can speak to a lot of the families who are in this homeschooling stage, but not really having planned for it in the long term. So you may be still having to work while you're trying to homeschool your kids. So I encourage you to find those people who will help hold you accountable, but who also will help you where you might need it. So you just have to find your people and let them be part of your community. Meet up at the park and go get ice cream, things like that just help build those relationships. So for my self-care, I have chose to keep working out and run. I have taken up running, especially during this quarantining time. I joked with Missy that every time I thought I would do this video, I had just gotten back from working out and I hated to do it with my hair up in a ponytail or my running clothes on. But guess what? This is me. This is what an evening around here looks like if I want to get my self-care in. It clears my head. It helps me refocus my thoughts. I can listen to a podcast, I can listen to an audiobook, or I can just blare some music if that's what I need right then. So that's what my self-care has been looking like. So you decide what's yours.
I'm so glad you joined us today. Don't forget about the assignment to leave an encouraging comment or scripture or discipline tip. Tune in next week for details about the studies that are going to be offered starting in September. So thank you for joining. Bye.